Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Three races remain in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and Chris Beets is starting to prove just how much momentum matters. After a victory in one of the toughest races of the season last week at the Nürburgring, the points leader now comes to Sebring looking for his fourth win in a row. But Sebring itself offers up its own unique challenges. This rough and bumpy surface offers little forgiveness to any driver who gets offline, and you're typically just one blade of grass away from disaster. At a track like Sebring, confidence is a necessity, and this historic sports car venue is playing host to some of the most experienced and talented road racing drivers on the sim. So, who will lay claim to victory at one of America's most historic endurance venues? This is round 8 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and it's coming at you live on Pit Stop TV. Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday evening, and welcome to another edition of our Pacific Challenge GT3 Series coverage here on Pit Stop TV. I am Eric Brennan. Pleasure to be on the call as this season is truly starting to wind down. Joined by JP Costa on the call with me tonight on the microphone. Emerson Arden's going to be knocking it out of the park from our production truck, giving you the sights and sounds of what we see tonight. And Corey Rexford, of course, is passing off all the information you need to know about tonight's contest across all of our social media platforms. We'll extend a special hello to all of you who may be joining us on those social media platforms, including that of Facebook, Twitter. We're also out on Twitch and YouTube as well. And this is a good opportunity. If you got a bug for racing, specifically sports car racing, this is the place to come to. This is the series to watch because these guys know how to put on a show. Now, this racetrack, of course, is known for some of the most historic and, in some cases, endurance sports car events that take place in the United States. However, tonight we're back to a traditional 60-minute sprint race format. And JP Costa, a lot of people know Sebring like the back of their hand, but it's got a lot of underlying things that could jump out and bite you at any given moment. What do you make of this 3.7-mile course? And welcome to another GP3 event, because this is going to be a blast.
Well, thank you very much. And obviously, as you said, this track is extremely difficult to master because obviously very bumpy, grass is on the outside, easily ready to take you out essentially. And you know, just making a mistake is so simple on this racetrack because of the nature, so bumpy, the suspension of the car is always working. So the drivers have a real challenging of mastering this racetrack, not only in qualifying, but also the 60-minute race that is following after this.
So take a look at our track map here, the Sebring International Raceway. 17 corners in total. You head down to turn number 1, the sharp or left-handed corner. May look like a premier passing zone, but sometimes these drivers are carrying a lot of speed, and if you get offline, you could be in. You head your way on up there to 2, 3, 4, and 5, very technical portion of the first sector of the racetrack, through the right-handed big bend at turn 6, and then the hairpin at turn number 7, where there is a beautiful hotel known as the 7 at 7, where many of the racers and teams stay in the real world of things. Fortunately, a lot of these drivers are just feet away from their bed when they wrap up their night's work here tonight, but that is certainly one of the best passing zones on that side of the racetrack. Through Fangio in 8 and 9 until you get up to Cunningham, that is right around turn 10. Then Collier at 11 and 12. and then Tower at turn 13, a hard-braking right-hander. Then we pick up the pace yet again to 14 down to Bishop, and then through Lamaze at 15 and 16, where you'll see a lot of drivers get off track. Fortunately, that's one of the fewer areas of the racing surface where there's a little bit of pavement there at your disposal if you were to make a mistake, but it's not much. Down the Ullman Straight through Sunset, and finally they come through Sunset Bend, that final corner at turn 17. It's a fast, sweeping right-hander that leads you up onto the main straightaway. If you get that wrong, it will kill your momentum down the front stretch, and it could cost you a spot and maybe even a victory. Now, speaking of victories, as we turn the page now to look at our championship point standings, we're beginning our 8th race of 10 here tonight, but as you can see, the 7 wins so far in the season have only gone to 2 different drivers. Chris Beets now has the lead in the win column. He's also got a 23-point advantage, and as you can see the note on the bottom portion of your screen, this is with the drop week applied, but Webb, though, is ultra confident coming into tonight's race. He's looking to tie Beets' number in the win total, but Webb, for the first time, finished worse than first or second last week. Had to settle for a third-place finish. Still made it on the podium, but everybody else is just trying to grab themselves a win. JP, as we look at the top 10 in standings, all of which made up by the pro drivers in the field, what catches your eye?
I guess just the proximity of points when you look at 4th all the way down to actually 10th. 60 points might seem like a lot, but with 3 rounds to go, especially at Sebring right now, you can catch a lot of drivers out. This race could actually shake up the championship a lot following those positions.
And series organizers offering up a lot of incentives all the way throughout the running order and championship standings that these drivers are chasing. But we'll see how things unfold once we wrap up our 60-minute contest here tonight. But that is how the points stand with Beets, Webb, and Brunham are your top 3. Curtis Jones, as of right now, did not make it into the session tonight. He finished on the podium last week at our event at the Nürburgring, so tough break to not see Jones on the entry blank when we finished up practice and kicked off qualifying, which we're 8 minutes into this 20-minute qualifying session where we're about to see how this field is going to come down to green. And so far, JP Costa, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is in 7th spot. That's your points leader in Chris Beets, and he picked up that incredible win last time out at the Nürburgring, but we also got to talk to Jesse Webb by virtue of his finish on the podium last week, and he said he was exceptionally confident heading into Sebring. Beets also said that he was pretty upbeat coming into this event, no pun intended, but he's steadily climbing his way up the scoring charts. He's up to 5th now. He did the same thing in practice, but still got 11 minutes to go in the session. Is this a moment of panic, do you think, for Beets, or he's got a long way to go here before he has to start to worry?
Well, he just improved his lap time all the way up to 5th place, so maybe the confidence, as you said on the intro, may be building up, and as the confidence builds up, obviously you're pushing the car more and more and taking more risks, and obviously this is the time. He still has 10 minutes, 11 minutes to go, so he can still put out a few lap times, come back to the pits, put in a brand new set of rubber and go for it again. But, definitely still a lot of time building up the confidence, pushing the car, knowing its limits, at least on qualifying, because I'm pretty sure on practice, they were just focusing on race pace. And just like in practice, Jesse Webb, putting up the first time right now, nearly over 0.4 of a second faster than 2nd place. So he's on a streak. He's very confident on this racetrack, and this could really pay off, just being that confident and that fast this early in the session.
It was interesting to hear in the post-race interviews we had with Webb following the long and final, really, extra distance race of the calendar last week at the Nürburgring. Despite the result, and despite now having to look up at the scoring pylon and see that Chris Beets took top honors for the last 3 races consecutively, Webb seemed pretty poised and pretty calm, cool, and collected heading into these final 3 races. Tonight, of course, is going to be at Sebring next week, the penultimate round of the championship at the Phillip Island circuit. And we're going to round out this championship at Suzuka International Racing Courts. That's the Grand Prix layout in 2 weeks' time. And Webb said he likes the venues that we're going to, and confidence could be a funny thing. Sometimes if you step over that boundary a little bit, you can become a little bit too confident, maybe too complacent in a pace you believe you're setting, or you can kind of walk the talk, and that's exactly what Webb has done so far here tonight. But Beets now up to 2nd, and he's now within less than 0.3 of a second of the quick time that was set by Jesse Webb. we're seeing lap times just under 2 minutes flat. We're in the 1 minute 59 second bracket or so. The lap of record, the quick time that Webb has set so far, 1 minute 59.450 is the mark this field is chasing. But JP, we'll talk a little bit about pit strategy once the race arrives. But I think right now this qualifying session's a bit of a big deal, especially with these top two. This is a statement opportunity for these drivers.
Exactly. It's very interesting to see because Jesse Webb, I was just looking, he made a mistake on turn 1 and Chris Beats actually topped out his best lap time, now only 0.3 of a second behind. So we know all of that confidence talk, oh, okay, now Chris Beats down to third as the times get closer and closer to that pole time. But, confidence, just a little spin here and there can affect your confidence, not only in qualifying, but through the race. And also, I think another important shot is the top 13 are all separated by 1 second. So if you make a mistake and you drop all the way back, it's going to be hard to actually make up that time back because everybody is within the same 10th. We have up until 17th spot within the 2 minute mark lap time, sorry. So it's extremely close field. Everybody can improve, everybody can put up a decent lap time, and if you can capitalize from the mistakes of others, which is very, very likely here in Sebring, you can be on for a great position at the end of the race.
Indeed, and we're keeping our eyes here on Jesse Webb. We saw momentarily Nick Ledecky have a bit of an issue there. That's a name that when you see him appear on the entry list, not running the full season. In fact, he missed 3 races in total, even with the drop included, down about 14th in the championship standings coming into tonight's race. But you saw Ledecky there momentarily. He's a driver that whenever you see him on the entry blank that we definitely have to keep our eyes on. He's got a handful of podiums to his credit already this season, perhaps one of the Las Vegas favorites to enter victory lane if there's a name other than that of Webb or Beats that is going to be able to get that job done. However, it's not been the session that he has hoped for up till now. Ledecky currently 12th in the qualifying running order, while Webb continues to navigate this racetrack and come through turn number 1. Now, we talk about some of the areas of the racetrack that are often forgiving or maybe not so forgiving. Well, Webb came through that first corner, and you saw there on the right-hand side of his car, you see just how close. I mean, look at that. You have a little bit of curbing, JP, and then it's basically dirt, dead grass, and then eventually the grass, which the racing venue doesn't want you on because you can make it look not so pretty if you get 4 tires through there. So, we're going to use the term unforgiving often at this racetrack, and that's why. There's not that much opportunity to get a wheel off without finding total disaster. And then beyond that, you've got some concrete, you've got some Armco barrier. There's very little sectors of this racetrack that offers you an opportunity to catch it if you were to find the limit in each and every respective corner.
Exactly, and obviously if you manage to correct the car, because we all know in GT3 racing essentially, it's extremely difficult to catch the car once it slides off. You also have to fight the suspension fighting the racetrack because it's extremely bumpy. So if you just catch the car and the TC just doesn't kick in or just kicks in way too aggressively, you can just spin off to the other side of the racetrack. So, this is a real challenge. Obviously, you have to attack the curbs to be as fast as possible, but obviously attacking the curbs, especially on an Audi or a Lamborghini, that can be extremely, extremely tricky. As you can see there, just a small twitch and you're pretty much on the grass. So drivers are obviously, in qualifying at least, are trying to find the limits of the car so they probably can avoid the mistakes throughout the race, because obviously on the race you essentially don't want to spin out, as we've seen, I know, multiple times in qualifying. And drivers are just trying to build that confidence. As we said, that's just, I guess, the most important part of the racetrack. As you can see, they're getting extremely close to the wall and the grass to trying to extract the best lap time. And essentially just Jesse Webb just 0.03 of a second slower than his pole time, essentially. So he's on the limit. He probably may have found the limit of his car and he's just keeping up with it, which shows extremely good pace and extreme confidence within the car.
Now, I will say there's a level of consistency between Webb's performance here in qualifying and the lap time that he laid down in practice. Matter of fact, there's only a 0.04 of a second difference, as it looks as though Webb is going to either take a break or reset and go back to the pit area. The lap that Webb turned in practice that was his fastest was only 0.04 of a second slower. So we found a little bit more under practice conditions, but one of the things that we'll talk about here is the weather and how the time of this race could play a factor in how these cars end up handling. But we see a bunch of drivers elected to come back out here with 4.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. 20-minute time session, no maximum amount of laps to be completed. But Chris Brunimer is a name that has kind of wedged himself in between a couple of the championship combatants here in qualifying. He's second quickest, as you mentioned, JP, less than 0.2 of a second off of Webb for the quick time. And Brunimer, who is third in points, has a number of solid finishes to his credit already in 2021, including a handful of podiums. As a matter of fact, he had one podium, was all the way back at Road America. Then it was a slew of 4th and 5th place finishes for Brunimer when he wasn't in some sort of trouble. He wants to be the first driver other than Webb and Beets to grab a victory, and this may be his opportunity. So we're talking about Webb and Beets trying to make a statement. Brunimer's trying to do the same, and the pace in that Audi appears to match the opportunity that lies before him here once we get down to race time in 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And Chris is on an excellent position because obviously, as you said, he's less than 0.2 of a second behind Jesse Webb in qualifying. So it's showing a promising pace throughout the race if he can keep that up. And throughout the race, he can actually race in different strategies. He can go for it, and try to overtake on track. But if he can keep up within that 0.2 of a second, he's definitely going to be catching up on the slipstream on the massive straights that we have here at Sebring. It might be posing a different strategy that could threaten Webb's race win just on raw pace, just by saving fuel, saving the tires. He can be on a great position for the race, and maybe, as you said, just dethrone the two, essentially just the two guys that have won all the races here in the championship.
It's an excellent point, JP, and as we are now working the final 2 minutes and let's call it 40 seconds as Brunimer gets to the line of this session. You see, Webb is the quickest, second in points, 3 wins on the season. Brunimer, we're on board with here on the approach to turn number 1. You see here how sweeping that left-handed entry is, and you almost want to come down to the inside retaining wall on the left-hand side. That's why if you look at the track map of the overhead, it looks like that may be a passing opportunity. We may or may not see a couple of moves taking place there in turn 1, but I think you're carrying so much speed, and that corner is sweeping so much with that radius of a left-handed corner. It may be a little bit flirty with disaster if you want to try to pull something off there on that sector of the racetrack. And Brunimer, with this onboard shot, is able to prove to us why. Beets, the point leader, is currently 3rd. Hansen 4th. He too is having a spectacular year thus far. He's right up there after nailing down a number of solid finishes. Bad luck, though, has been on his against him a couple of times. He's 9th in points. He does have a podium to his credit, but just wrong place, wrong time on too many occasions. Hopefully, if he's able to start further up towards the running order, that won't happen here tonight. And Christian Gurgis, who did not race at the Nürburgring last week, after taking 1 week off, perhaps to regroup a little bit, he's back in action here, and he is flying in that 5th spot with Rudebusch, King, Ledecky, Wittendorf, and Hartman, your top 10 as we approach the final minute of qualifying.
And let's talk about the car selection. Obviously choosing the McLaren, which has proven to be the fastest car throughout the VRS week, but as we know, the McLaren is just pretty much death trap. As soon as you lose the car, there's absolutely no catching it, and it just decides to get lost whenever it wants. So it could be, I guess a two-bladed sword. I don't know the expression correctly, but he could be on for a great place, if he can manage to tame the McLaren. But also it could be his downfall if unfortunately he hits the bump on the wrong way, or unfortunately applies too much brake or the throttle on entry under load. This could be an interesting driver to look out for in the race.
And now that we are under 40 seconds to go, this is going to be the last opportunity for a number of these drivers. And look at that, Jesse Webb's going to lower the bar even further. How does he find an extra 0.2 of a second the last time he came through? He's now separated the field by 0.3 and giving everybody just one more shot to try to eclipse his lap time. That is now 1:59.286. On board with Beets, the points leader. This is his last chance to try to have an opportunity to claim pole, but it looks as though as of right now, barring any advancements by the crew behind him, he's going to have an opportunity to line up inside of row 2. He's currently sitting in 3rd. And JP, as we watch a driver like Beets, you just have an opportunity with this onboard shot to just see. We talk about unforgiving. We talk about the percentage of an error or mistake as he utilized all the curbing there heading into Le Mans and now up the Ullman straight. Uh, you have certain areas where you could attack the curves because there's a little bit of asphalt there that gives you a little bit of forgiveness, but it's not everywhere. And this is by themselves. I mean, we're going to pack about 27 cars on this joint in about 2 minutes or so. It's going to be tough. We talk about this typically being an endurance race, but this is a sprint style layout with 60 minutes only to get the job done. I think we're going to be in for an exciting one here, strictly based off how hard these guys are pushing and qualifying alone.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We're definitely going to be seeing some brave overtakes. I'm pretty sure we can see those in here. We can see cars going side by side throughout the lap. We saw that, abundantly, I guess, throughout the week in VRS. So it's definitely possible to have some very, very nice racing here. Obviously, it's extremely risky with all the grass, all the high curves that can unsettle the car, and obviously all the bumps. But, definitely, as you said, being a sprint race, drivers are not going to be holding back a lot. It's not a 2-hour race where you can just hold back and save a lot of fuel. Sometimes you do have to be aggressive in order to make up spots. And I'm pretty sure some drivers are going to be eager to try to get their first win or maybe first podium tonight.
And I think there are a couple of names that we're going to have our eyes on here as being some who may be able to take that opportunity as the last couple of cars come to the line here to close out this session. You saw Alexander King with a very interesting livery that we will touch on a little bit later on tonight. How about Gavin Cohn? Haven't called his name yet here in this qualifying session. He's somebody who did not partake in the practice session. That does not mean that he did not practice. He could have been in a separate session, but he, at the very least, did not turn a lap in the official session that was held. Currently 19th in the running order, and it looks as though that is where Cohn will stay, as he is going to be one of the last cars to come to the line. And a proper farewell to the session as Gavin Cohn there bins it in the barriers in turn number one. And it looks as though we are getting set for our starting lineup and green flag for our 8th race of 10 in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. We talked about weather. There it is. See the air temperature, 73.5 degrees Fahrenheit. I know many of us across the country would kill for this type of weather. Partly cloudy, but track temperature not that hot due to the time of day that this race is taking place on in the sim. 75 degrees Fahrenheit. You see a little bit of a breeze there, about 8 to 9 miles an hour. In fact, it's coming down a little bit. And of course, the Sebring International Raceway located in Sebring, Florida in the United States. And I have to say, as somebody who had the opportunity to be there a few months ago, it is a state-of-the-art facility, and all the pageantry that comes with it, it truly kind of is able to shine this racetrack in a different spotlight than perhaps what you could see on TV. And I would recommend it to any motorsports enthusiast to add it to a bucket list item on their list as far as places to go to see some motorsports competition. So the weather is something we're going to be following along in. Again, we mentioned time of day. This race kind of taking place in the wee hours of the morning, per se, on the sim. And with that, let's take a look at our starting lineup for round number 8 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. Runner-up in the points, looking for his 4th win of 2021. Jesse Webb on pole, with Chris Brunimer looking for his first victory of the season, starting outside in car 2. Inside of row number 2 is where you're going to find our points leader, and Chris Beats in car 33, looking for his 4th win in a row to extend the championship standings, and a spectacular run by Christian Gerges, who's going to line up the 151 car outside of row 2 in 4th spot. Take you back to row number 3. Here's another driver who will try to enter the win column for the first time this year. James Hansen, top 5 in car number 1, outside Mikael Rudebusch, who's putting together solid results in this part of the season. The 22 car is going to start on the outside of row number 3 in 6th. 7th spot, Alexander King with some new paint on the 164 car tonight. Nick Ledecky, always a driver to watch when he enters these races. He'll be rolling off the number 16 car from 8th spot. And rounding out our top 10 here tonight, John Wittendorf trying to erase what was just a horrid effort. Not any of his doing, just wrong place, wrong time at the Nürburgring last week, trying to rebound from that. He's going to be starting in 9th, and Sven Hartmann takes the 119 from 10th.
Just outside the top 10, we have Trevor Ederson on the 108. I mean, his BMW definitely going to be trying to finish in the top 10. Just alongside him on the Lamborghini, the 97 of Corey Peters. Again, another driver just starting just outside the top 10. Definitely going to be trying to find a gap maybe to overtake on the first few laps. BC Voigt on the number 64 Ferrari is going to be starting on P13. And right alongside him on the number 100 Audi, it's Spencer Vick. David Flanagan is going to be starting on the 8th row on the left-hand side, on the inside line, on the number 124 BMW. And alongside him, the number 83 of Wade Hayes. Starting off on row number 9, we do have the 110 of Ryan Coulter in his Audi, and in 18th position we do have a Mercedes, actually surprising, of Alex Schreber in the number 50. And on the on 10th row we do have Gavin Cohn, as we just mentioned, on the end of qualifying, and right alongside him Alan Roth in the Audi on the number 126.
Take a look at the rest of the field. 21st spot is going to be George Tachek with Jimmy Allen outside in car 17 and 22nd spot. 23rd is where you'll find Mick Blue, one of the veterans of the series, in the 177. The 123 of John McClintock takes you back to 24th. 25th is where you're going to find Jason Frisk in the 189, and the 111 of Randall Ayers takes you back to 26th spot. The final car in the field tonight, 27 cars getting set to go for 60 minutes at Sebring, is going to be Patrick Herring in the 144 in 27. So the field now behind the pace vehicle, working the far side track. There's a quick look you had there at the 7 Hotel at Sebring International Raceway. Just an absolutely beautiful venue. Was on the backside there as we were looking back from the pace car, and the field will now funnel in the double wide formation for the last time at pace speed, working the far side of the track. And JP, real quick before we get set to go racing, don't mean to put you in the spotlight, but who do you like tonight? Jesse Webb seems really strong.
Yeah, exactly. Jesse seems awfully strong in qualifying. You know, 3/10 of a second on any qualifying lap, especially with, you know, Chris Brunner and Chris Beats right behind him. It's extremely good pace. But, you know, we do have to keep an eye out for both Chris's, actually, because, you know, you can save a lot of fuel on this racetrack, and you can keep up with the driver ahead, even though he's faster, just based on a massive straights that we have here. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see, you know, if both Chris Brunner and Beats start battling and start losing time, then Jesse Webb is going to be definitely the favorite to win. But if they can work together, you know, just saving fuel, saving tires for the end of the race, we could have a very interesting strategy race towards the end of, you know, tonight's race.
We can expect at least one pit stop in this event, as we have throughout most of the sprint races, usually coming in the 1/3 mark to go. Usually we get to the final 30 or 25% of the race is when some of these drivers like to hit pit lane for fuel. And that calculation usually could be a winning or losing factor in who ends up taking top honor. So that's something we're going to be keeping our eyes on as well. And as with all of our sprint racing formats, the start, perhaps the most pivotal part of these events for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, getting through turn 1, specifically here at Sebring, which oftentimes appears to be very open and welcoming to try to make some aggressive moves. But when you come out the other side and it narrows back up, it doesn't seem to offer too much forgiveness for those who elect to be oh so brave. So let's see how this race pans out. It is Jesse Webb who is trying to make up ground on the championship and looking for his 4th win of 2021 and trying to take the points lead back. On driver's left, outside Chris Brunner, who is going to be starting outside of that first row at 2nd spot, looking for his 1st win of the season, while the point leader in the black car inside of row number 2 is going to look for an opportunity from 3rd. Here we go. 3 races left to go in the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and we are underway from Sebring, with Webb getting a clear jump from the start. Beats is going to try to follow through for 2nd as they're 3 wide behind them.
Chris Brunner was actually caught napping by the start. Unfortunately lost P2 for Chris Beats, and as you can see now, James Henson also losing a spot, as we do have the McLaren Christian Gerges fighting off into P4, staying in P4 actually, as we still have some side-by-side action. Looks like everybody made it through, everybody being very cautious, very gracious on the first lap, which is good to see. Not a single driver looks to be out, and Jesse Webb absolutely shooting off into the distance, but looks like the Lamborghini of Chris Beats is definitely on the hunt.
Beats definitely closed there under braking as they come through the hairpin for the first time. A lot of drivers dipping the left side wheels off into the dirt, trying to get maximum grip and power as they could, or try to shortcut that sector of the course before they head up into Fangio, which they're already through, and now working the far side of the racetrack for the first time. And it's a familiar 1 and 2 running order. Remember, up until last week, although this first lap doesn't appear to be perfect for everybody, as it appears that Gavin Cohn has had a bit of an off, he remains at pace and up to speed, but he is trailing the field significantly. But up until last week, it's been simply just that of Chris Beets and Jesse Webb in the top 2 positions all season long. It was Webb who actually broke the streak by virtue of a 3rd place finish, but still that proves just how superior these two have been to the rest of the pack up to this point in the season, and they run 1 and 2 for the time being, with Brunnemer trying to rebound after what was not the best of starts. A defensive line down the Ullman straight, the straightaway that leads up to the final turn, the sweeping right-hander through Sunset Bend. And we'll see now how things will tighten up here as they come through the complete lap 1. It looks as though that Webb swept out a little wide, a wider arc into that right-handed corner. Beets holding a tighter line as they come back up onto the main straightaway, but lap 1 is going to go to Webb.
Yeah, exactly. The last corner, you can take so many different lines, and you obviously have to be careful, because if you do take a wider line, just like Jesse Webb, did, obviously you're opening up for a great exit on the main straight, but also you're opening up the inside for a possible move from the car behind. So you definitely have to be careful on those moves. And just like you said, we have 3 guys all the way up in the front, as we do have a few battles all the way back here, as we're going still side by side. It looks like Alexander King and Trevor Anderson also going side by side, as we do have a replay to what happened to Gavin Cohn, I'm pretty sure.
It's actually going to be Nick Ledecky, who we said would have been one of the potential favorites to capture victory here. We got a quick glimpse of him getting the car righted, and there it is. That's how, just how treacherous that transition back up onto the main straightaway. That turn at the Sunset Bend up off the Ullman Straight is so flat that you are so tempted to try to hold it down, or at least get back to the power as quick as possible. But if the back tires don't hook up appropriately as you're sweeping your way through there and putting all that load on the left rear tire, your car can step out on you relatively quickly. Fortunately for Ledecky, though, he's got a lot of opportunity and time to make up the ground that he has lost. He has plummeted down the running order for the time being, has Ledecky. He came across the line in 24th spot 1 lap ago.
Exactly, and we just saw how dangerous the bumps can be. Just on the exit, the car was already pretty much settled, and unfortunately just the bump, I guess, caught the car. The TC didn't engage properly, and that was it. The rear just spun. Obviously these cars don't have ABS, so you're just keeping up with the momentum, but that's how tricky it can be. But as you can see, just a massive gap between those 3. Chris Brunnemer, I guess, is pushing to trying to keep up with those 2 ahead, but Chris Beets is definitely applying pressure on Jesse Webb. He doesn't care about the fuel economy at this point in time, as they're both running essentially equal cars. Obviously the Lamborghini is just, I guess, kind of different chassis from the Audi, but Chris Beets just doesn't care. Look at him, just applying pressure, just putting that Lamborghini nose all the way into the rear end of that Audi and just trying to force a mistake from Jesse Webb.
One of the things that we're going to be talking about a lot tonight, we've talked about already many times tonight, is that word confidence. And if you go back and watch the tail end of our broadcast a week ago, Jesse Webb did not seem phased at all. I wonder, though, if some of those emotions and feelings are starting to wane a little bit here, being that he is getting the back bumper filled by the points leader in Beets. And we really have to tip our cap here to Brunnemer as well. I mean, this is a 3-car freight train as they come off of turn number 7 and work the far side of the track once more. Brunnemer is proving he's got the pace to stay with these 2 tonight, at least up to this point in the race. They've gapped the rest of the field back to James Hansen by about 4 seconds. So that's how much better, or perhaps just how much these guys have it figured out as opposed to the rest of the competition. And we may be in for a treat if the top 3 can remain this close throughout the night, including the ever looming and lurking pit stop that will come for fuel at one point in this contest.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure if Chris Beets and Jesse Webb, I'm pretty sure they ran VRS, so they kind of know the strategy involving fuel saving, how much they can fuel save, where it's ideal to fuel save. I'm pretty sure they do have that mapped out. Jesse obviously on the defensive position, he knows where Chris is gonna save, and Chris knows where he has to save. But obviously Brunnemer is on the back foot here. You can see there he's just kind of 7-8 tenths behind the leader, just trailing a bit behind. Now the question is he gonna save, or is he just gonna go on the attack just like Chris Beets is going? This remains the challenge, because if you lose just a bit of contact, lose the slipstream, that could be the end of the race. It could be very, very difficult to catch the top 2. So it's kind of hard to figure out which strategy Brunnemer is going to choose for the remaining 53 minutes of this race.
And JP, you mentioned the slipstream. I mean, some may think, what are you talking about? This is Sebring. That doesn't matter here. It actually does. And wow, here comes Beats with a big run. It'll look for the lead on Webb as they come through the left-hander, but Webb's got the preferred line that time. It'll fend him off for the moment. The pressure is on. Top two in the points, battling for the top spot here at Sebring. And we're only 7 minutes into this race.
Chris Beats absolutely sending it on the infield section. Obviously, that is very difficult to overtake on the outside if you don't have the nose already pretty much leveled. But he doesn't care. He's just applying pressure. And Jesse Webb obviously running for his money, essentially making a run for his money right now. Just it's not phased. You know, he completely ignored the existence of the move. Obviously, he set the fastest lap of the race just before, but you know, just trying to soak in all that pressure. And obviously, that battle is allowing James Henson. Obviously still far away, but if they keep battling, that obviously could bring the top 4, top 5 back in this race for the win, essentially.
And obviously, it's very tough to keep our eyes anywhere else other than this battle at the front three, because this is the best race we've got going. Hansen, Gerges separated by a couple of car lengths there, 4th and 5th. We mentioned in the starting lineup call about John Whitendorf, who is trying to overcome what was not. He qualified very well at the Nürburgring. As a matter of fact, we kind of alluded to it being just a terrible result. And the reason was because he was one of the fastest cars in practice. Also, was exceptionally quick in qualifying. And on the opening lap of the endurance race, he gets off course and finds the wall hard. As a matter of fact, when he came to the checkered flag, he was buried in the running order 26th. For a driver who's shown so much speed and flex muscle the last couple of seasons in this competition. Right now, he's running in 7th and in a great battle for position here with Ruderbusch and Anderson just behind. So Whitendorf looking for an opportunity at redemption here at Sebring. Runs a little bit wide here off the final turn at 17 and onto the main straightaway. But he's got his hands full with Ruderbusch and Anderson side by side behind him on the approach to 1.
Yeah, exactly. Just saw a move being done by Mikael Ruderbusch in the Lamborghini. He just pretty much stuck it on the outside and got a better run. And as you can see there, he just already got a better run on John Winterdorf. He's going to be looking on the inside, not wide, as Winterdorf kind of misses the apex a bit. But, you know, just now we have a 3-car battle for P6. Winterdorf, actually got a pretty decent start because he started on P9. He's already in 6th place. So if he can soak up this pressure, he could be in a very good position to try and catch maybe Christian and James and maybe fight for a top 4 essentially. But right now he still has to fend off the 2 angry German and Italian stallions right behind him.
So as you can see, 10 minutes into this 60-minute event, and we've got great racing all throughout the top 10 and all throughout the field. This is Hansen trying to fend off Gerges, who had one of his best qualifying efforts of the season, did that of Christian, and the top 3 flashed by momentarily. They're still running within 1 second of each other, but you see the gap back there to Gerges, who is about, we'll call it 0.6 of a second in arrears, as you can tell by the graphic on the lower right-hand portion of the screen. And one of the things that we mentioned is the fact these drivers have a lot to race for. And a lot of prize packages put up by the series sponsors and partners, and it truly does stem throughout the pack. Pro Class first, second, third place drivers all going to get some cash prizes, $85 for the winner and 3 liveries from Sarah Rabb, who is not in the field tonight as there was a car that was way off there. That might be Anderson. It is Trevor Anderson. He was running up at the top 10, and he's got major damage to the left side of that car and the front end of that machine as he tries to limp it home to the pit area. What happened to Anderson?
So let's take a look at our pit stop replay, but that looks like contact maybe from another car and the wall, because the front end of that BMW is gone. As you can see, they're going side by side. Is he going to be braking on the grass? Oh, he just unfortunately cut the front off. Oh, and that's a big crash. That BMW could be toasted. Oh, that was just, I guess, just a racing incident by looking, you know, just at the one replay. Just kind of cut the nose in, and unfortunately there was a car there, and they just got it tangled. And unfortunately for him, that could be raced over. His car is pretty much crap. As you can see, they're just taking the race line. But unfortunately, the Audi, is that John Winterdorf as well that was caught up in the incident? No, I don't think it was Mikael. I'm not pretty sure which Audi was that, but as you can see, they're just big damage to the BMW.
I believe the other car involved might have been that of Spencer Vick, who was running in lockstep formation with Anderson at the time of the incident, car 100. And as you can see there, and we're on board with Spencer Vick here, so we're going to have a good shot of it. And we'll see what it looks like from his perspective. And, oh, I could totally understand why Vic wanted to try to stay there up on the outside. Even though the preferred line there to get through that right-handed corner was on the bottom, it looked as though there was a full car length available for Vic to try to fill that hole on Anderson. And Anderson tried to prep for the corner and did not realize that Vic had gotten up alongside the quarter panel. And that is a hard hit for both of those drivers as that crash comes just over 10 minutes into this race. And Anderson has finally limped it back to the pit area. What a heartbreaker for a driver who also has began to break his stride, I should say, in the latter portion of this season. Anderson 5th in points, coming off 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. Unfortunately, he's not going to make it 4 in a row tonight as far as finishing up in the top 10, but that is where he was running at the time of the crash. Here's the battle for the lead. Webb, Beach still separated by about 2 car lengths, with Brunnemer waiting in the wings if something should happen with these front 2, as these drivers take it all the way out to the outside retaining wall on the front stretch, and they bob and weave there. Before the crash was bringing up the fact that these drivers do have a lot to race for. Cash prizes for the Pro Class, $85, and 3 liveries from Sarah Rabb, who's not in the field tonight. So we hope to see Sarah back in competition in the next couple of races. $65 for the runner-up and $40 for 3rd place in the standings. For the amateurs, and if we did not explain this earlier, they split the field, not as far as how they score points, but just as far as how they are ranked as far as driving category. It's a separation of I rating. As a matter of fact, coming into tonight's race, top 14 drivers were all pros. Highest running amateur in the standings was that of Sven Hartman, who's running 11th on the racetrack right now. Highest amateur driver, $30 gift card and 3 liveries from Sarah Rabb. 2nd place, $20 gift card to the PSRC web store. And the 3rd place finisher, $10 gift card to the PSRC web store as well. And then they have raffles available for the remaining finishers, 4th through 21st and 22nd through 44th. And they'll also have prizes for the most improved, most positions gained, and cleanest drivers. All of those coming from that of TAM livery. Also, Bemke Symptography, a huge supporter of this series as well. It's because of them, these drivers have a little more incentive, as if trying to go out and beat each other every Monday night was not enough. Hartman, though, having a pretty clean race. He's in the midst of what looks to be a 4 or 5 car freight train for a top 10 spot, with Wade Hayes just ahead and Corey Peters in the green car. That flashes by there on the left-hand side of your screen, holding down 9th for the time being.
Exactly. We do have a very, very interesting battle here as well. A lot of Lamborghinis, 2 Lamborghinis, 2 BMWs. It's interesting to see the difference between these 2 cars. Obviously, handling is very, very different. So, you know, each car has its strengths and weaknesses, especially on a circuit like this. But it's kind of great to see, you know, such diversity. And, well, we do have Sven Hartman. No, Wade Hayes going defensive. Looks like Sven Hartman could be trying to brave it around the outside of turn 17. Is he thinking about it? Taking a wider line, probably thinking about the exit. Is he going to get close enough? He does get a better exit now. Is he close enough? Is he going to be braving around the outside or the inside? Looks like he just lost out on the exit part, on the final part of the racetrack, but it looks like the door is just closed. Unfortunately, he backs off and is just trying to wait, just putting pressure on Wade Hayes, trying to see if he can crack under pressure, but at the moment looks like every single driver is soaking up the pressure of everybody. No one seems to be cracking, no one seems to be making mistakes, which is great to see, obviously, but unfortunately it's not making positions and not creating a lot of mistakes and not a lot of crashes, which is a great thing, especially on Sebring.
Yeah, and despite how tough and treacherous this track could be, as you can see, there are battles aplenty throughout the field still, stemming all the way from the top 3 to this fight here, as coming right up to the back bumper there as they come through turn number 7 in this racer position was Sven Hartman on Wade Hayes. That's about as close as you could get without scrubbing the rear wing on that car. And now they've got Corey Peters knocked out of line here as Alexander King is trying to pick up a spot. He's going to work around the outside. So is Wade Hayes. They almost banged doors.
Wade Hayes doing the absolutely perfect opportunistic move. You know, he was just, unfortunately for Corey Peters, he's just pinched on the inside and unfortunately had nowhere to go. Couldn't pick up the momentum. And Wade Hayes just took his chance and just swept around the outside, making a great move, moving himself up into P9 and still keeping up contact with Alexander King right in front of him.
So that's some incredible racing going on here, as you can see, from about 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th on back or so. as they now come up the Ullman Straight. And this is where that slipstream really does come into effect here. You see these drivers get a little bit of a tow. Oftentimes, you might even see competitors elect to dip down drivers right to try to break up that potential draft, as Peters has a peak down low on Hayes. He'll duck back in line. And Hayes now hugging a bit of a tighter line here to the sweeper that makes up the Sunset Bend before they come back up onto the main straightaway. And I'll emphasize once again the fact that turn 1 may look a bit tempting as far as a potential passing zone because of how wide the racing room is, but it narrows up relatively quickly once they come off the exit, as you'll see here with Hayes closing up on Peters, and there is not a lot of room to exit that corner side by side, but Hayes is going to fill up that mirror anyway on the approach up to turn number 2 and 3, and this is a great battle now, 5 cars deep from King, who's 8th, all the way back.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, turn 1 can be extremely tricky to master, because if you just go a bit too wide, you're going to be dipping those wheels onto the dirt, and as soon as you dip the wheel onto the dirt, it's just pretty much a magnet. As you can see now here, Corey Peters having to go defensive once again, but it looks like Sven Hartman's going to be braving around the outside. He went deeper on the brakes. Now is he going to get a better exit? They go side by side, and well, looks like the BMW engine is just talking a bit louder, but the Lamborghini pretty much has the inside line. Now, is Corey Peters going to repeat the same mistake he did last time out? He's still under braking, and looks like unfortunately has to concede the position. So another position lost at the exact same corner last lap. So that's not really good for the Lamborghini driver. Maybe just lacking a bit of confidence under braking with that Italian stallion. But hopefully he can put himself together and trying to challenge again for that P10 spot.
Give a call to BC Voigt, who's right there as well, just behind in 12th spot. I mean, you know, BC was in a precarious position there where he may not have known which line was going to move. And at that point, when you have 2 cars ahead of you side by side, you have to imagine they're trying to be cognizant of the competitor on the inside or outside. And maybe they've backed up their braking points a little bit. They're taking a little bit easier to try to respect their fellow competitor. And that's the best opportunity for Voigt to come in there and bump one of them out of the way. That did not happen because Voigt too was trying to respect the fight that was taking place up ahead. And although it ended up being a position lost there by Peters, the opportunity appears to be presenting itself for Voigt to get a little bit closer up to the top 10 if he can get around Peters and eventually Hartman, who's trying to gap Peters now into turn 1.
Yeah, exactly. Voigt essentially has to use that Ferrari power, because the Ferrari is the fastest car on a straight line at the current BOP. So he definitely has to use that to his advantage. This track obviously could pay in favor, as we do have the first pit stop of the night, Spencer Vick going to the pits. But just coming back to Voigt really quickly, he does have to use that. Obviously, he's extremely close. Looks like Corey Peters might be struggling with something, because right now he's dropping quite a bit from Sven Hartman, who obviously dropped a lot from Alexander King, who unfortunately lost position to Wade Hayes. But we're gonna have to wait and see if there's something wrong with Peters' car, because looks like he's just dropping back. I'm not pretty sure what is happening. Might be just a small mistake, might be trying to save a little bit of fuel, but something is not right. It looks like he lost a lot of pace in that car. But right now, just as I say that, it gets really close to the BMW, and it looks like the pace is just coming back to his Lamborghini.
Looks like there is a little bit of separation starting to develop, though, from these competitors. As we saw, at once this was a 5-car pack, and it's kind of spread out just a little bit for the time being that we see. One driver who is in this mix as well, just up ahead, Alexander King and Wade Hayes trying to move up closer to Mikkel Ruderbusch. But we are already a quarter of the way into this event that has thus far been dominated by your leader in Jesse Webb, with Chris Beats still in tow. Chris Brunnemer about 1.1 seconds behind. We've had a couple of incidents so far in this race. Trevor Anderson and Spencer Vick were involved in a hard crash. Anderson currently rounds out the field, but remains in the session, although he may be done for the afternoon. We will monitor that for all of you who may be wondering how Anderson is doing. You see Vick has returned to the racetrack. However, he is mired down at about the 19th spot, however, unofficially still shown on the lead lap. The one driver who has disconnected from the session is that of Gavin Cohn, who he too was involved in an early race incident. And here's the battle for the lead. Look at this. It looks as though Beats has closed up big time and had a look on Webb for the top spot. Brunnemer is going to close up from 3rd, and we're 3 cars under a blanket once again for the race lead.
Looks like Jesse Webb made a mistake on the first sector, because he was 0.7 of a second ahead of Chris Beats as soon as they started the lap. But as you can see, they're just going extremely defensive. He does not want to give up the lead of the race. Obviously, track position is the key for absolutely every single race, and Jesse Webb does not want to give up his track position right now. And obviously, that just brings Chris Brunnemer once again closer and closer. And it looks like Chris Beats now has, I guess, a target. He's just extremely close, pushing the Mercedes, pushing the Lamborghini to an absolute limits right now, trying to close up on that Audi. As you can see, they're just making a small mistake, and that can put him under pressure from Chris Brunnemer. So this is an exciting battle for the lead. Obviously, all three drivers pretty much on the same pace. Anything can happen right now. You know, obviously, anybody could just try and undercut the other, but obviously trying to feed into traffic is not going to be ideal. And well, this is just shaping up to be an exciting race, and we still have nearly 40 minutes to go.
Absolutely love the onboard shots that we're getting an opportunity to see here, especially when you could hear the fact as to when Chris Beats was getting back on the throttle, and yet you were still watching Jesse Webb put some distance on him. I mean, these guys are truly on the razor's edge, and this is one element of the track that I've noticed a significant difference between these two. Beats just appears to hold a tighter line to the right-hander at Sunset Bend. That gives him a huge run here up the main straightaway. He's going to have a peek inside for the race lead at turn one. Can you pass there? Look at this. Side by side for the top spot. Beats on the bottom, Webb up top, and we're still wheel to wheel for the lead.
Jesse Webb being absolutely brave under braking, closing the door, and Chris Beats under braking, absolutely trusting the driver behind him to not overcook the braking zone, and just absolutely nailing the braking. Obviously, Jesse Webb just holding around the outside of turn one. That is extremely brave. Obviously, Chris had the compromise line being tighter on the entry. That obviously compromises the apex speed. But wow, none of these drivers are ready to yield the position. And obviously Chris Brunnemer, I just had a rating from him, and unfortunately I couldn't really tell what he said, but I'm pretty sure he's loving the battle right ahead of him.
Has to be loving it, of course. And remember, this is not the first time that these two have gone toe-to-toe in this close of proximity. We mentioned they traded wins pretty much all season long, but it wasn't always in door-banging fashion to the end of the races that we've had here. And although they've been thrilling and competitive, usually the margin of victory is a little bit bigger than what one may expect or hope for. The exception was Imola 3 races ago, when Beats ended up going on his winning streak. That's when these two had a back and forth battle, and what eventually led to a last lap mistake by Webb, and that was when Beats went on his roll as far as collecting trophies in consecutive order. And it appears as though we may be in store for a similar suit with Brunnemer trying to play the role of the spoiler. But I have to tell you, JP, if we're looking for a visual representation of where Beats may be a tick better, it's right here. He's able to hold that car down closer to the retaining wall on the right-hand side of 17. This is where he got that big run up on the main straightaway. Will he be close enough to try to pounce at turn one again? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not pretty sure if it's just the difference in setup, because the chassis of both cars are the same. You know, they share the same chassis, they're pretty much the same car, so it should be the setup that is favoring Beats on the final part of the circuit. But it's extremely interesting to see, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of both cars on different parts of the circuit. You can see sometimes Beats just losing time on the second sector, and then he just closes up all the way back into the main straights. So, you know, just playing that different setup game could be very, very interesting to see where each driver is faster. And obviously, I'm sure Chris Beats is just, you know, writing down on his mind where he's faster, where he can pounce. So just trying to push the car to its limits, trying to get closer, and obviously forcing Jesse into a mistake, which is not happening at all at the current moment. But, you know, just trying to study the driver ahead, just the characteristics of the driving, you know, the lines, all that sort of stuff, to trying to make the move count when it matters.
And even though we just, you know, harping back to the race at Imola where these two drivers were battling for the lead, and Webb went off a little bit wide there in turn 4 as he catches a lot of curbing here to the right-hander. The truth is, the common denominator amongst these front two is a lack thereof of mistakes. I think that if we look at most of the drivers throughout the field, or even poll them, they would probably openly admit that they have made a catastrophic error at some point in this season. And I think that goes up and down the running order with the exception of 2 drivers, and that is these two. But that doesn't mean it will not happen. And this track appears to be one of those that can be prone to such an unforced error, especially when you are running this close together to the competition and knowing what is at stake here. And we said it on the lead-in, momentum and how important it can be. And right now, Beats is on that wave of momentum, and Webb wants nothing more than to put a stop to it the best way that he can. But Beats is looking to try to find a way up to P1 for the first time in this race as we inch closer to halfway of this round number 8 of 10 in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV. Top 2 in the championship, top 2 in the race, however, reciprocated order. And Chris Brunnemer, who we remain on board with here through turn 3, is trying to play the role of spoiler, and he has certainly had the pace to keep up with these two. When will he decide it is the right time to start to force the issue and maybe work his way up to P1?
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure Chris right now is just biding his time, just hoping that Beats and Webb get into a side-by-side battle, maybe push itself a bit wide and open up just a small gap for his Audi to fit. I'm pretty sure that's what I would be hoping for if I was in his position. Obviously, he might just be fuel saving and just be thanking Beats to be, just within a second essentially of Webb and just fuel saving to jump both of them on the pits. Only time will tell the strategies that these guys are putting in relation to fuel and tires. And well, it's just as close as it was on the first lap, and I'm sure it'll just get closer and closer as we head towards the final 30 minutes of this race.
So 32 minutes left to go, and we are starting to see a couple of cars out of the pit lane. Here's George Tacek. Not sure if this is scheduled service or perhaps this is in response to something that may have happened on track. Tacek was running a little bit further down the running order, was outside of the top 15 at the time of the pit stop, but this could also be a bit of a strategy move, which, JP, this is going to open up the opportunity to have a little bit of dialogue about just that, pit strategy. In all of these sprint racing events, and I know that we haven't been privy to have you on the call for all of them, but the common thread, whoa, sorry there, Beats there had a dive, and Brunnemer had to react, and we almost had a chain reaction incident there up at the front of the pack as they come back up onto the main straightaway. But the common thread in these sprint races when it comes to fuel strategy seems to be less than 20 minutes to go. And being that we have a 2-minute delta in lap time, stark contrast to what we had last week at the Nürburgring, I think we could expect about 10, 15 minutes or so when these drivers will have to make their pit stop. And I mean, what do? Do you operate under your own game plan, or is this going to be a case of follow the leader for the top 3 as Alexander King is now electing to pull onto the pit lane here for service?
Yeah, we're obviously seeing a lot of different strategies on the midfield, some drivers trying to undercut, but when I think we're talking about the lead, we have to take a different approach because every single driver, at least the top 3, I'm pretty sure they want to run the tank dry because the car just stays lighter. It can get close to that qualifying trim that they were in, and you don't risk, just pitting early and coming back into traffic because we're seeing how hard it can be to overtake. Obviously, if you do have the extra pace, it could be a bit easier, but it's just so easy to defend and make sure the car behind you essentially loses time by not giving up the position. So I'm pretty sure we're just going to see these 3 pitting at the exact same time. Obviously, if Chris Brunnemer is saving extra fuel, he could go for an extra lap. It's kind of difficult just based on the size of the lap. Obviously, it's a 2-minute lap time. But, I'm pretty sure they're going to be coming to the pits in the exact same time. And then we're going to be seeing the different strategies, how much each of the drivers are putting into the tank. If some of them are underfueling, some of them are overfueling. And we're going to see if, maybe a mistake on pit road could cost. As you can see now, Chris Brunnemer absolutely piling on the pressure on Chris Beats as he lost contact with Jesse Webb. Could we be seeing a move down into the first corner or maybe even the last corner right now?
Still, Brunnemer may have a bit of a run there to the outside. This is not where you typically would try to make a pass for position coming through the final corner at Sunset Bend, although if you get it right, and you could pressure the competition into a little of a sliding mistake there as Beats almost dipped the left side wheels off into the grass there before the tire barrier protrudes out towards the wall. And you're right, JP. It looks as though Beats has lost about as much ground as we've seen so far here tonight, but we've also seen a bit of ebb and flow between these two where Beats will get behind by about 3/4 of a second. Perhaps Webb will bobble, and that'll rubber band these 3 right back together. Hard to believe that we are more than halfway in this 60-minute event. The top 3 remain separated by less than a tenth and a half. and pit stops are in fact looming. And here's another facet about this series that I love to talk about. Here at the Sebring International Raceway, 3.7 miles in length, 17 turns, 27 cars came to the green. Right now, only 2 cars are off the lead lap by virtue of accidents, Trevor Anderson and Gavin Cohn. 25 cars remain on the lead lap, and as you look off into the distance of the leaders, you don't see any lap traffic anywhere. That's how competitive and tight this field is as a whole, not just with these front 3 who have been in a league of their own here tonight. They're up by over 8 seconds on the pack, but it also proves the fact that these guys aren't dodging lap traffic all throughout the night. It truly is some of the best in the business on the sim, as Beats looks like he had another hiccup there coming through the right-hander.
Yeah, I guess the point you just touched was, I guess, what we saw in qualifying. Pretty much the whole field within less than 2 seconds. 2 seconds on such a big circuit. Obviously, it's a 2-minute lap time. It's great. You're pretty much not going to be encountering traffic throughout the race, at least if there's no contact on race pace, which is really good. Obviously, that throws, I guess, a bit of as you said, traffic management out of the window and just focuses on raw pace, which is really good. But obviously, seeing some traffic and seeing how the drivers handle, sometimes you can get lucky and unlucky, maybe gain time and lose positions at the same lap. Obviously, throws a spanner in the mix, but it's definitely great to see the field, such a tight field, separated by less than 2 seconds on such a big track. And obviously, people just running groups essentially. Just we can see groups of 3-4 cars battling for the same position, and there's just a small gap, another group. That's just fantastic to see. And obviously, just the whole different cars, Lamborghini, Audis, Ferraris, Mercedes, McLarens. It just shows the quality of the field and of the series.
Absolutely, and I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up there, JP, is this is truly something that I think we all look forward to, and I know that a lot of us are based in different parts of not only the country, but the world, and this is certainly worth staying up for or getting up for or whatever you may be doing as far as taking a look at how these races transpire and unfold, and this battle amongst the top 3 is living and breathing proof of that. It is truly remarkable how tight these 3 remain, with 26, just under 27 minutes to go. They've gapped Hansen and Gurgis, who run 4th and 5th, but we can't quite take our eyes off some of that action up at the front. But how about this battle here? BC Voigt banging doors there as they come up onto the main straightaway. Wade Hayes just up ahead, and I believe that maybe one of the cars trying to get a positive ID as they come through 7. Love this high shot here over the hairpin as they weave their way up towards the Fangio portion of the racetrack. This battle continues. This is just up inside the top 10. That's Hayes, Hartman, followed by Voigt and Peters. So this is 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively, as they're still duking it out for top 10 positions.
Yeah, exactly. BC Voigt looks like he has the confidence and looks like he has the pace to pass Sven Hartman. Just can't find a way through him because, as we saw, Sven just went offensive, and it's pretty hard to overtake around the outside here. We saw what can happen if you try to overtake around the outside. It could unfortunately close the door really quickly, but it looks like BC Voigt that Ferrari seems to be coming alive on the later part of this race. Maybe not in qualifying, but definitely in the race, as he already made 3 positions so far in this race and looking up to make another one as he tries to pass Sven Hartman, maybe on the first corner. Just have to wait and see where the BMW is going to react. Being front engine, you can kind of get a little bit of understeer on those fast corners, so the Ferrari could be getting closer and closer, especially on this last corner.
How about that at the top of your ticker? Christian Gurgis, fastest lap of the race, just over the 2-minute mark, as we're starting to see some more drivers head onto the pit lane. It looked like it was BC Voigt who was electing to take the dive, but here's Gurgis, who's trying to get up into 4th position after one of his best qualifying efforts of the season, looking for a 5th place run, and as we mentioned earlier, took the week off the Nürburgring last time out. Gurgis back in competition here tonight, and truly putting together what should be one of his best efforts of the 2021 campaign. And despite missing the event at the Nürburgring, which, depending on many of these drivers' thoughts of how that race went, some loved it, some maybe not so much, Gurgis looking for his 3rd top 10 of the season and what could be his 1st top 5. John McClintock has found the wall in what looks like turn 1.
Oh yeah, looks like he unfortunately lost the car on the entry, maybe? We're gonna have to take a look at our pit stop TV replay right here. But unfortunately, yeah, looks like Sebring caught another victim. Looks like by himself at this moment in time. As you can see there, just the Audi coming up. braking, and looks like just carrying maybe a bit too much speed, and the rear was having absolutely none of that, just pretty much just asking the front tires, what are you doing? And unfortunately, that's how quickly you can end up in the wall in this track.
The back end of that car got very, very light, very, very quickly, and we're going to actually get to experience here on board with McClintock on the approach towards turn number 1. And this, again, as we mentioned, it looks wide, it looks forgiving, it looks welcoming, but not so much. He closed up very quickly on what looked like Mick Blue that was out the windshield, and that tire wall certainly arrives on the scene quickly there with the right side. That was a pretty heavy hit there from McClintock, and that's going to push him further down the running order. It was running 16th at the time of the incident in turn number 1, and Alexander King looks as though saw a momentary shot there of him having a bit of an issue here. We mentioned we were talking about this livery. I want to give a shout out to Corey Rexford, who's handling our socials, and that's a bizarre little bobble there and a hard hit to the right-hand side of the Lando Lambo. Lando Norris adorning all sides of that Lamborghini, and Alexander King, who was up in the top 10 for most of this race, now having a pretty significant hit there on what looked to be the run through at the exit of turn number 5 to the Big Bend up through turn 6. And we're going to have a look here at another issue that may have plagued that of John McClintock. I believe this was after the incident down in turn number 1. You can see some obvious damage there to the rear wing. This appears to be approaching Lamaze curve here through turns numbers 15 and 16. He's got some pressure from behind, perhaps one of the lead lap machines, and he loses it there on the exit of turn 16 up onto the Ullman Straight. So back-to-back incidents on this lap for McClintock, and that's a tough place to try to right the car to make sure there's no traffic coming. He did so without major incident, and it is now McClintock running further down the running order. Also, you do see that Randall Ayers has abandoned the session, but here are the leaders. We're at 22 minutes left to go in this race. Webb beats Brunnemer, yet to make their stops. We'll see if they're going to be able to do so here this time through, as they are 11 seconds up on the rest of the competition. And that ebb and flow process continues to kind of take shape here, with Webb, Beats, and Brunnemer back up onto the main straightaway, and they're going to elect to stay out for at least one more lap. So with that, let's take this opportunity here, as it looks as though we are looming on potential pit stops, to thank some of our partners here who make these broadcasts possible on the platform here at Pit Stop TV. It is because of them we have the opportunity to have these races for all of you to watch, listen to, and enjoy, especially on these Monday nights. We've been having double headers, so hats off to all of our extended team. This broadcast tonight is brought to you by Tucson Sound Art. Remember, your picture, your music. Use the promo code PitStopTV at checkout to save 10% off your wall-mounted sound art device today. We're also brought to you by Race Pace, newest partner to Pit Stop TV. Pick up the pace with Race Pace, a community-driven setup shop and driver development program. We're also brought to you by Permanent Makeup in Maine, because you deserve the best care that money can buy. Visit permanentmakeupinmaine.com for more. And finally, we are brought to you by Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. And what a sight with some of these aerial views. And I mentioned I absolutely love the shot that we have in the hairpin high above what looks like the 7 Hotel there at turn number 7. Taking a look at these cars as they run their way down the far side of the course. And how about this? It's almost like you're watching as we are on a chopper in motion, following Jesse Webb at pace and at speed. You get a real sense of how quickly they're coming through the Lamar curves there at 15 and 16, and just how close these drivers are running here up towards the head of the pack, with Webb, Beats, and Brunnemer still holding it down on the ready. And we will see what ends up happening here as far as pit stops. So Webb, Beats, and Brunnemer, 1, 2, 3, as they have been. Wow, look at Beats close up there to the back bumper. Nearly got into the backside there on the right rear of Webb's car as they come around the final turn. And it's starting to heat up at the front for sure. So Webb, Beats, Brunnemer. They're going to come by a couple of cars that are coming off the pit lane. And Brunnemer may, in fact, be the variable. Here's one question we're going to pose to all of our viewers here. If you're Chris Brunnemer and you know what's at stake for these front runners, how rough are you going to make it in order to try to find your way to the front? You know that one bit of misjudgment or one uncalculated mistake and error could end perhaps the championship hopes, or at least maybe not end them after the drops are considered, but at the very least put one of these drivers behind the 8-ball. If you're Chris Brunnemer, how aggressive are you going to be in order to try to make this move happen? Or are you strictly waiting on the pit strategy? If I'm Chris Beets, I am not letting Jesse Webb out of my sight. The minute I see that car dive for the pit lane, I am following through. And I expect Webb to think the same if Beets was able to get up and around. The question would be if Beets decides to pull the undercut on Webb and maybe try to deceive him a little bit, but he might be a little bit too close to make that happen by the time they have to commit to the pit lane. So this may be Brunnemer's opportunity to do something off strategy, off kilt from what the front runners are doing, and see if that is what it's going to take to get around these front two cleanly, because we don't really know what Brunnemer's car is capable of in clean air. And hopefully for him, we will have an opportunity to see that unfold. So we have 8 minutes to go, and we'll see how this race pans out. And JP Costa, the leaders have yet to come down the pit lane. Front runners still running very close. And so far, the biggest difference I'm seeing between these drivers is coming up to this corner, the final corner at turn 17, where it certainly tightens up as far as that battle for the top spot.
Yeah, exactly. Drivers are showing different strengths and weaknesses throughout the racetrack. You know, we can see now here just Chris Beets absolutely piling the pressure on the last corner. He just seems to be hooking up that corner extremely well, and Jesse Webb might be struggling as both of them actually dive into the pits at the exact same time. Extremely close. Looks like maybe Chris Beets actually made up a few tenths of a second under braking, and Chris Brunnemer maybe saved up actually a few liters of fuel and maybe going for the extra lap, which could pay off in his favor.
And that's one of the things that I was wondering that we may see happen as the top two, nose to tail, lockstep formation onto the pit lane. And look at all the cars coming behind them. Wendorf, Hansen, Ruderbusch, and company all on the pit lane, as well as Christian Gerges. But who is going to win the race off pit road amongst the front runners? Let's see how this pans out with Beets and Webb. I think perhaps Beets may have beaten Webb out of the pit lane. He has. He's overtaken him on the pit lane. And now it is Beets out in front of Jesse Webb for the first time in this race with over 16 and a half minutes to go. How does the pit stop fare for Brunnemer?
Well, looks like Chris Beets actually managed to save a bit extra fuel on the pit stops, even though he was pushing. So that's kind of interesting to see. Maybe he underfueled as well. So we need to have to wait and see. Now Chris Brunnemer obviously looks like he's the only car to take an extra lap, take the risk of actually going an extra lap. Now this could actually pay off because his car is the lightest on the field. Chris Beets and Jesse Webb looks like they do have now a few, I guess I would say at least 25 liters of fuel still in the car. So an extra 25 kilos, give or take it, on the car. So Chris Brunnemer needs to absolutely nail this lap. Pretty much has to put it a perfect qualifying lap to try and jump at least Jesse Webb, maybe Chris Beets, because he was extremely close as they head into the pit lane. So he has to nail not only turn 17 but also the pit entry.
And this is something that we were hinting at earlier. You know, Brunnemer maybe not willing to try to force the issue all that much as far as getting up there and racing with some of the top running drivers in the championship fight. This is his chance to get it done, though, on the racetrack. He ran a solo flyer by himself. Look at him attack the entry to the pit lane and stomp on the binders to get it down under 45 miles per hour, where he'll crawl his way to the pit box for service. This is Brunnemer's chance to grab a victory this season with 15 minutes to go. The delta as he came onto the pit lane was about 35 seconds. Is it enough? He will have to take at least one lap less of fuel if he wants to dial it back far enough to make it all the way home for the checkers, with Beets potentially being able to get by as the new leader as we patiently await where they're coming. Here they come back up onto the main straightaway. It's going to be Beets. Brunnemer's getting off the pit lane. This is going to be close. How's this one going to pan out here? Beets with a full head of steam approaching turn one as Brunnemer pulls off the pit lane. He's got the lead for now, but can he hold it off turn one?
Not only can he hold it, but looks like he extended it. Absolutely master fuel saving by Chris Brunnemer, as we do have James Hansen unfortunately spinning out. Looks like on turn 16, on Le Mans corner. Looks like he does have damage to the rear wing. But let's talk about the strategy for Chris Brunnemer, keeping up with both leaders and saving up a ton of fuel. Actually going out 1 second and ahead of Chris Beats. Unfortunately, that drops quickly down to 8/10 as we're going to have a replay to see what happened to James Hansen.
Hansen was running up in the top 10 at the time of the misfortune, and there was some clear damage there to the backside of his car. Surprisingly, running by himself here through the Lamas curve. Second time we'll see this corner jump out and bite somebody, it seems. And it was in similar fashion, perhaps, to what happened to John McClintock about a few laps ago. Through the right-hander, and around she goes. This time, he caught a lot of grass and a big hit to the tire barrier on the inside of driver's right as they came off turn 16. And very hard to get that car refired. Heads up move there by Hansen to back up as opposed to just letting that car shoot his way. Oh, he did make additional contact with another car. It looked as though Hansen may have thought he was clear, and I think he made contact with another vehicle there as he got back up onto the racing surface. So things going from bad to worse for Hansen, who, as we mentioned, came into this race 9th in points, looking for a solid finish after not having the best of runs at the Nürburgring. And his top 10 appears to have unraveled here as we're on board with him off the corner, losing it again here off 16.
He actually got kind of lucky to actually hit the tire barrier, not the concrete wall, so maybe not a lot of damage done on that first part to that Audi, but unfortunately, as you can see here, just trying to get back at the wrong time. Obviously, you're just relying on the relative bogs, and unfortunately, Sven Hartmann on the BMW was the unfortunate victim of that bad rejoin, and as you can see there, maybe big damage, and unfortunately made the driver tow back to the pits. As you can see there, just absolutely no front end on the BMW, so kind of hard hit. Unfortunately, heartbreak for both drivers, but more so for Sven Hartmann.
Yeah, Hartmann, who was having a great run here tonight. We mentioned he was one of the highest running, in fact, the highest running amateur driver in the points, so that's not going to help his efforts. And here we go. The battle for the lead starting to intensify. Brunnemer finds himself now being the rabbit that these dogs are chasing for the top spot with 12.5 minutes to go in this race. You're watching the 8th race of 10 on the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV, with the championship combatants, Beats and Webb, running 2nd and 3rd. They are the only 2 drivers to visit victory lane so far in the 7 races that were held prior to tonight this season. Brunnemer looking for his first win of the season. He's 3rd in points, but a ways back from these 2 in the championship standings. He knows what he is vying for, and let's see if opportunity will present itself all the way to the checkered flag. But Beats is starting to pressure Brunnemer for the race lead, while Webb is trying to hang on to these 2 in 3rd.
Let's not forget that Chris Brunnemer is actually faster than Chris Beats on qualifying, maybe just by a few thousandths of a second, but he was faster. So he may have the extra confidence on the car just to keep it on the road, but obviously Chris Beats has the advantage of being in the slipstream, and obviously with the massive straights that you have here in the Sebring, that's just going to close you up a lap after lap. And obviously James Webb is just relying on the battle between Chris Beats and Chris Brunnemer to try and get close, because right now, it looks like he doesn't have the pace to keep up with Beats, even though he held Beats behind for throughout the race. As soon as Beats jumped him, it doesn't look like to have the pace to just keep up with him. Unfortunately, it looks like that car was just better off in qualifying at the moment, because just slowly but surely dropping, just keeping and hanging himself through the slipstream. But, hopefully we can see a nice 3-way battle for the lead. But it looks like Chris Brunnemer now is on the perfect position to try and take this lead with just under 11 minutes to go.
So far, Brunnemer is able to nurse that 3/4 of a second advantage back to that of Beats, who is about 3/4 of a second up on Webb. Here's Corey Peters trying to get some more positions, and we mentioned the problem that Hansen had and Hartmann had, with Hartmann now being out of the race. That's going to move Wade Hayes up into 7th, Peters to 8th, BC Voigt, the car you see in your distance there with the orange nose, in 9th. Peters having a look here inside turn 1. That's close. And he's not going to be able to pull the pass off. Hayes is going to hold it down to the first corner. And how about David Flanagan into the top 10? There's a driver who also did not partake in the practice session, the official session that was held. Started 15th, has kept his nose clean here tonight, and Flanagan may be en route to a top 10 finish.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping your nose clean throughout the incidents that happen throughout the race can pay off. And David Flanagan's just showing that, just running his race on P10. Looks like he might be coming under pressure. Oh, well, it looks like Wade Hayes just got overtaken by the Lamborghini of Chris Peters. Is that it? Yeah, it looks like they're going side by side as they now head into the fast turn 8, 9 section, looks like the Lamborghini is going to have the inside line. Now, is he braver on the brakes? Because he lost 2 positions on this exact same corner, but looks like just he was having absolutely none of it. Just being braver under braking and forcing the BMW off the track and just getting the P7 done. Just like you lost it, you can make it back.
The problem is, while they're battling for this spot, that's allowing BC Voigt to close up on them there in 9th. And we mentioned Flanagan. He got his best career finish last week out. Or I should say his best finish of the season last time out at the Nürburgring in 7th. He's looking for back-to-back top 10 finishes here tonight if he can hang on in that 10th spot. Meanwhile, the lead appears to be tightening up just a little bit as George Tacek. We dropped back and saw him for a moment, but last couple of laps, Chris Beets was a 1/10 of a second faster. He's gotten it down now to 4/10, a little bit of a bobble there in turn 1. And for the first time tonight, there is a hint of lap traffic ahead of the leaders. And this is a racetrack, you know, JP, we've not really talked about the effects that lap traffic could have, but if you catch a lap vehicle in the wrong spot here, it could be extremely detrimental to your race, especially with only 8 minutes to go.
Well, yes, absolutely. Not only frustrating, but also it can make you lose a lot of time, because if you just choose the wrong part of the circuit, you know, just the wrong lane essentially to overtake, you can just be pinned down and stuck behind him as the car behind you just sweeps around the inside or outside. So Chris Brunnemer now is definitely going to be starting to flash his lights way before maybe just getting on the team radio, on the all teams radio, essentially just warn that a battle for the lead is going on. So just asking the drivers to pretty much just park it on the straights if they're not fighting for position. But right now things are going to get very interesting with just under 4 laps to go essentially. Things could be spicing up on the last few laps just due to that one single Audi in front of them.
And one of the things that we obviously mentioned the fact this is a very high-class, high-quality field that we have assembled for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. But there are occasions where you could be at one point on this racetrack. We expect that if you're on a straightaway for the lap traffic to yield, which it looks like it is going to, that's John McClintock, who is yielding down to the bottom here, perhaps. Not sure if he's going to be able to get out of harm's way this time through. Now closing up quickly come the leaders. But there are sectors of this racetrack where you really can't get out of the way in time, or at least to a safe enough avenue. And we've also seen drivers who are trying to do that, to yield to the leaders, perhaps create even bigger problems than what they would have if they would have held their line. So you could have the best drivers in the world. We see it across all multiple platforms of motorsports, and sometimes trying to find the right place to be in at the right time as McClintock goes off there in turn number 1. And that was a bit of a moment there. He gets way out of the way for the front 3, so that's not going to be a conversation, at least not for him in the latter stages of this one. But there may be a couple of more cars they have to encounter, but Beets is certainly starting to apply this pressure here with 6.5 minutes to go. Brunnemer trying to hang on for his first win of the season.
Brunnemer absolutely did an excellent job to soaking up that pressure, you know, just having Chris Beets jumping Jesse Webb, his championship rival, on the pits, and then being stuck behind someone when he thought he had the lead might be extremely frustrating to Chris Beets, and obviously he is trying absolutely everything to get past Brunnemer at this stage in the race. Obviously just under 3 laps to go, maybe even just 2. We're just gonna see an absolutely almighty send on one corner. Might just see the pressure soaking up and unfortunately not getting close enough. Only time will tell, but Brunnemer just has to keep his nose clean, just having to soak up all the pressure, not make any mistakes, to not allow Beets to have a chance to put the car side by side through any corner essentially on this racetrack.
So having not been in this position before, it's hard for me to try to explain the potential mental approach to the position that each one of these drivers are in. We talked earlier when Chris Brunnemer was running in 3rd spot, how he may have had the pace or may have justified having the pace to fend off the drivers he is now trying to fight off against, or at least to get up and pass them when he was holding down the 3rd spot and running in the coattails of Beets and Webb for the race lead. And maybe he didn't want to get up there and mix it up with these two, considering all that they have at stake in the championship. He perfected the overcut. Now he has the lead. He knows he has nothing to lose. He wants to be the 3rd different driver to visit victory lane this season. But let's try to take a look at things from Chris Beets' perspective. He's ahead of the driver chasing him in the championship standings. He sees the leader out his front windshield. He's looking for his 4th win in a row en route to what could be a championship effort. And he's got to fend off the driver who has got to be so desperate to get by just from a momentum standpoint. He wants to stop Beats from being able to rack up that margin that separates the top two in the championship standings. So how much is Beats willing to risk to go for the trophy while trying to protect the points lead in second? And how much is Webb going to try to attack Beats, knowing that a mistake by either driver could be consequential for the big picture of the championship, with Brunnemer pretty much the only driver who has everything to gain and nothing to lose amongst these front three?
Exactly, that's the million dollar question. And Brunnemer is the X in the question. You know, he's the big question. It looks like he's going defensive. He struggled a bit on the hairpin, missing the apex, but obviously he's just pushing his car to the absolute maximum, trying to extract the lap time, essentially just putting out qualifying lap after qualifying lap, and, you know, just trying to soak up all the pressure while not making a mistake. Because if you just look at the mirror at the wrong time, that can get you off guard and essentially force you into a mistake. So Brunnemer absolutely doing everything, and Jesse Webb just unfortunately doesn't seem to have the pace to close up. He's keeping up with both of them, but not getting close enough to try and make a move. That could be strategy, absolutely. You know, just hoping that those two get together and he can just take full advantage. But ooh, as he does get side by side, he just Tokyo drifts Le Mans corner, the turn 16. But as you can see, just 6 tenths behind Chris Beats, as Chris Beats is now 4 tenths behind Brunnemer. As we're coming down to, I guess, 2 laps to go, this could be all or nothing for all 3 of them, essentially.
So Brunnemer is going to come to the line with about 3 minutes remaining. We'll figure there's going to be about 2 circuits remaining. We dropped back momentarily and took a look at that battle on the bottom portion of the top 10, but there were 2 laps to go on these 3. Brunnemer, Beats, and Webb. Webb led from the drop of the green flag up until the pit stops. Lost the lead in the pit lane. Not by a large margin, but Beats had the advantage pretty much for about 3/4 of a lap, we'll call it. As a matter of fact, he didn't even hold the lead because Brunnemer stayed out on the racetrack until he elected to come out of the pit lane, and the overcut may turn into a race-winning move if he can mine this gap of about 5 car lengths back to Beats, who appears may still be able to salvage a great points-paying day in the runner-up position. The podium streak still intact for second and third right now, but there is 1 lap car ahead in that of Jason Frisk, who is in front of the leaders with 2 minutes to go, a lap and a half to go for the front runners. And this race is still undecided in the 60-minute contest that will make up the third to last race of the 2021 season for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. The last lap is about to get intense, JP.
Now, the question is, are we going to be seeing a big send from Chris Beats or Jesse Webb? That's going to be the big question, because it looks like Jesse Webb just turned up the pace to 11 right now, pushing the car to absolute limits, trying to close up the gap. Now he's only 4 tenths behind. You can see they're just flashing his headlights to trying to get in the head of Chris Beats, just trying to distract the driver in any possibility that he can. And Chris Brunnemer obviously just tanking him, because he's now 5 tenths of a second ahead of all 3 of them, as we do see Jason Frisk pulling up to the side, and the 3-car battle just keeping up with everything. And now we're just gonna see the last lap. Are we gonna be seeing a send from Chris Beats or Jesse Webb?
This is the point of the racetrack where Beats has been a little bit better than the rest of the field through turn 17. You look at them close up here as they come around this right-handed corner for the second to last time, and onto the main straightaway comes Brunnemer. We can expect the white flag to be in the air. It is the final lap of the race. Webb looking out the windshield, hoping that something happens with the front 2, as they may have clear racetrack to the finish line, with Brunnemer leading Beats here through turn 1 and 2, now setting up for 3 for the final time.
Now obviously he's feeling the biggest amount of pressure he's faced all race, because obviously final lap, final times, he's going to be going through each corner. He's going to be pushing to the absolute maximum, not allowing Chris Beats to get anywhere near a dive bomb, I guess, distance. And, you know, it's just going to be having to soak up all the pressure. The heartbeat's definitely going up at this moment in time, as you can see the white flag on the top left corner of his screen. As you can see now, Chris Beats only 3 tenths of a second behind him. Is he lining up a move? Is he lining up a dive bomb? Not close enough. Looks like Jesse Webb might be out of the equation right now, just settling for P3. But the big question is between these two. As you can see, they're just getting closer and closer and closer. 3 tenths of a second to Chris Brunnemer. This is going to go down to the wire.
Working their way down the far side of the track for the final time, and Beats, who has been so much better through the final corner than his closest competition throughout the night, has one spot left up for grabs ahead of him, as Chris Brunnemer is trying to become just the third different driver to win in this series in 2021. They're going to come up the home and straight for the final time through the Lamaze curves at 15 and 16. And a bit of a bobble there by Beats, and that may end up being all she wrote, but he got a chance at a slipstream toe here on the far side of the track, and he is in fact closing. Webb out of the picture, as you mentioned, JP, with one corner to go. The points leader looking for his fourth win in a row, while Brunnemer looks for his first. Here they come to the final corner. A big sweep out wide by Beats. Is it going to be enough to close up? Not going to happen. Welcome to victory lane, Chris Brunnemer, your third different winner for 2020. He tops the competition at Sebring and grabs the victory as Beats settles for second and Webb third.
Absolute masterclass of a performance of racecraft, saving fuel and pushing at the same time. Absolutely well done, but it looks like it's not done yet here. We do have Peters trying to challenge Wade. Hey, oh, looks like they're gonna be going side by side, and BC Void might be on the perfect spot to capitalize. Going wide, swinging on the inside. Oh, looks like he gave the Lamborghini just a touch on the rear end, and looks like that's gonna be all she wrote. There's gonna be that drag race. Oh no, BC Void looks like he let off the gas as a sportsmanship act, and it looks like that's gonna be all she wrote for them. Hayes finishes in 7th, Peters in 8th, and Void in 9th. On the as we do have a Naudi spinning. Who is that? On Spencer Vick. Oh, a bad race comes to not the greatest ending, as it looks like he just lost it all by himself.
Yeah, Vic almost, oh, look out here. Still got cars flying onto the scene as Vic almost rolled back out in front of traffic. He was running back at about the 16th spot. We're going to go back and take a look at what happened to Vic here, as the last few cars are waiting to come to the checkered flag. Spencer Vick, who's had an eventful day, just caught a little bit of the grass there with the left side wheel, spun it sideways and rolled back just a little bit there in front of traffic, but fortunately was not speared by the oncoming cars. And as the last few drivers make their way down to the checkered flag, it took us 8 races, all the way back from the season opener at Donington Park, moving on into when we finally had our second different winner at Jesse Webb, or excuse me, it was first 2 races, Donington, it was Jesse Webb. Road America, it was Chris Beats. And it took us all the way to round 8 until we had a third different name in victory lane, and that is Chris Brunnemer here tonight. Took me long enough to explain that one, but we still got guys coming to the finish line here before we officially bring this session to a close. And the podium streak continues for that of Chris Beats and Jesse Webb. They finished on the podium in every race so far this season, and it's going to be a bit of a championship points gain for that of Beats, who came home the runner-up tonight. But the story is that of Chris Brunnemer, third in the standings, maybe a little bit too far outside of the opportunity for the championship, but stranger things have happened, and we have 2 races left to go in the season, and now it is Brunnemer who gets to add his name to the win column for the first time this season. We're going to step aside and catch our breath after what was yet another sprint thriller for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here at Sebring. We're going to hear from our top 3 finishers when we come back here on Pit Stop TV.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the virtual Sebring International Raceway as we just wrapped up round number 8 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and we have a new driver at the top of the scoring charts. When all was said and done, after Chris Brunnemer was able to capture top honors here in this competition in what was an incredible race all the way throughout. Top 2 drivers of the championship in contention. It came down to pit strategy late in the going. And it is now a pleasure to introduce again our third different winner on the season, a driver who was third in the championship standings coming into tonight's race. But he played the overcut to perfection, had the pace all race long, and now is the winner from this event here at Sebring. Chris Brunnemer, welcome to the broadcast booth. This has been a long time coming. The pit strategy got the job done, but you had pace all night long. We talked a lot about confidence leading into the broadcast. What was your level of confidence coming into this race here at Sebring tonight?
It was high. Pretty high. I'm pretty good at Sebring. I have a lot of laps here. I just didn't think I would have the pace for Jesse and Chris. They're super fast. But yeah, that was an exciting race.
Now, one of the theories we were developing as we inch closer to the pit stop was the fact that, yes, you're third in points, but the math may call it a little bit of a stretch as a shot at the championship, but you still want to win out as the season winds down. Was the fact that the 2 drivers in front of you were racing for the championship, did that play a role in you electing to go with the overcut strategy to maybe get out ahead of them without having to try to rough your way up to the front of the pack, or was this the plan all along no matter who you were racing with for the win?
Yeah, good question. To be honest with you, I didn't know what position I was in the points. I only know who's leading right now, the points. So that didn't play a factor at all. I'm just here to do the best every week, get the best finish I can. But yeah, racing with teammates, there's a little bit of conservatism there since they are your teammates. I was just content sitting behind Beats all race, saving fuel, saving tires, and my best bet was to do the overcut. I think Beats was the fastest car today. I think Jesse was really fast, just burned his tires off a little bit. But yeah, it was an exciting race.
Now, when you take that overcut strategy, you're putting a lot of pressure on you for that one lap. It's pretty much not even a full lap, considering the fact that your competition is on the pit lane for a little bit, and then you have to make the dive onto the pit lane. How white-knuckle was that one circuit around this 3.7-mile track for you? It looks like it paid off in big dividends. You guys were all running within about 1.5 seconds of each other, but it swung a second in your favor when you got off the pit lane. How hard were you pressing on that overcut lap?
Yeah, no, the car felt great after I was out by myself because my tires weren't bad at all. I was low on fuel and had no dirty air in front of me, so my in lap would have been probably my best lap of the race had I not pitted. So my in lap was really good, but I just saved like 4 liters of fuel versus the 2 guys in front, and that really is what did it. Then after that, the first lap out of the pits was eye-opening with all that extra weight. I almost threw it away in turn 2 and 3, so definitely interesting after the pits too.
Looked as though you were able to mine that gap, though, all the way home for the checkered flag, and you got yourself the win here, first one of the season. And we still got 2 races to go in this thing. Phillip Island next week. We're going to wrap it up at Suzuka. What do you think your chances are maybe grabbing 1, maybe 2 more wins before this season's over?
Yeah, the next race, Bathurst, is one of my favorite tracks out there. So we'll see how that goes, especially after running 12 hours over the weekend.
Now, Chris, obviously you've had some good runs here throughout the year, but this is your first opportunity to thank those who make this possible for you as the winner in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series event. Who makes this possible for you? You mentioned teammates. I'm sure you got a lot of people in your court who you could thank here for this chance to celebrate a victory for the first time this season, which hopefully won't be the last one.
Yeah, I got to thank all my teammates. We work really hard together to improve each other, and I also got to thank my dogs. They really look at me with really encouraging eyes while I'm practicing and racing.
I do the same when I'm calling these races, so I know how you feel. Chris, great job, man. Thanks for putting on a heck of a show, for perfect strategy, and a spectacular win. Long time coming. Glad you got the job done. Congratulations, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Again, that is Chris. His first win of the season after being 3rd in points coming into tonight's racing event. The driver who had the points lead, though, finishing runner-up here today, standing by with JP Costa, is that of Chris Beats.
So Chris, qualifying I guess wasn't ideal, starting P3. Did you have anything more in that car to give? Unfortunately, just couldn't hook the lap, or was it that was that it that the Lamborghini could give you in qualifying?
Actually, I was kind of lucky. I think I got a tow. I was about 2 or 3 tenths down, and I think I picked up a tow from another car, and it helped me out. I think I qualified a little higher than I was expecting.
Well, obviously that actually paid off, because right at the start you already jumped into P2, and well, talk us through the first part of the race. Were you safe? Because you obviously saved a bit of fuel because you jumped Jesse Webb through the pits, but you were pushing as well. So was it a mixture of just saving fuel on the infield and just pushing on the straights, on the heavy braking zones? What was the plan on the first part of the race?
Actually, I didn't think I would qualify that high, and I was surprised to get past Chris in turn 1, but I knew just keep pressure on him and stay in his draft, and I knew the car would stick with him. I just tried to unsettle him as best I could do, and the jump in the pits, yeah, I must have saved just enough. I didn't put too much gas in, but it was just enough to get the in.
And the decision to pit on the same lap, was it just you didn't have enough fuel to go an extra lap, or was it just reacting to Jesse at the same lap? What was it? Was just running out of fuel?
Yeah, that was it. I couldn't have stretched it any farther.
Well, obviously you jumped him, and what was your reaction when you jumped him and on the very next lap Runnemer jumped you?
I had a funny feeling Chris was just waiting. He was very patient. He could have definitely put a move on me a couple times while I was battling Jesse, and if I was in his shoes, I would have saved gas and got the pair of us, and that's exactly what he did, and it worked for him. It's a great win for him.
And at the end there, where you just ran out of time, because at some points you were just extremely close, unfortunately just couldn't hook the move. You think if you had an extra lap or two, could you get close enough to actually make a dive or an attempt for the lead?
To tell you the truth, this track is really hard to pass on people that are lapping, near enough the same times you are. Beyond the track trying to kill you every lap, getting a pass most of the time is taking advantage of someone's mistakes, and Chris didn't make any mistakes today. He ran a perfect race.
Well, and so did you actually. And what are your plans for next week? Obviously Phillip Island, kind of different track, obviously race. The tarmac is smooth, long sweeping corners. Do you think you can excel at that racetrack?
Yeah, I'll try and give it a go. I've never raced there before, so we'll see what happens.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see you. Hopefully we can talk to you again next week. Who do you have to thank for this podium result of yours?
As always, my wife and the PSM team, and for my cat for not jumping on my lap in the middle of the race.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Well done on the race result. Obviously that's great for your championship, and I hope to talk to you next week.
Thanks. Good night, JP.
So yeah, good night. Well, that was Chris Beats, runner-up, second place tonight, and now I'm gonna be passing out Jesse Webb, sorry, for Eric again, a number pole sitter and podium finisher tonight.
Thanks a lot, JP. Jesse, welcome to the broadcast booth. Back-to-back third-place finishes. Some people would do anything to have results like that. I know that I'm in that category when it comes to driving on the sim. However, for you, and being the fact that practice began as well as it did, qualifying began as well as it did, what are your thoughts about the result here tonight after having pace with the two drivers you were chasing there down to the checkered flag?
Well, it's really unfortunate because I definitely had the pace to win the race, but I think a lot of it was, I feel like pole sitters kind of can be at a disadvantage at times where you can have people behind you that aren't having to push as hard and they're able to use the draft to keep up with you. They're able to save tires and save fuel to get you in the pits and have a better second stint. So that is one of the unfortunate things of just being a pole sitter in the first place, and it's not like you can just get yourself in that second place. And you know, if there's a preferred place to start one of these 60-minute races, it's second place.
That's a great point. It kind of leads me into my next question here. So you led more than half the race, and you know, being out front there, you kind of said it. You're the driver setting the pace. So with pit strategy being the talk of the race, at least now looking at it from a retrospective lens, did you take this as far as you could on fuel? Did you really have no other option as far as pit strategy? You were setting that pace. Could you have made it another lap?
Yeah, no, there was no possible way for me to make it another lap. I could have fuel saved, but I would have fallen back into the guys and would have gotten past anyways. One of the other issues is I think I clicked the wrong setup because I had absolutely no speed on the straightaway. And Chris and Brunham both noticed that issue. I forgot that they're both named Chris. But they both saw that I had that issue with straightaway speed, and I was really only able to gain 2/10 going onto the back straight. So there was another issue.
It's just very interesting how many different nuances that you drivers have to think of in these type of sim racing scenarios. But nevertheless, very strong performance. The podium streak continues. You've yet to finish off the podium in a race so far this season with 2 races still to go. And you're not out of this thing by any stretch. Last week, we talked about confidence heading into Sebring. Let's talk about confidence heading into Phillip Island next week. I believe you said that, you know, you kind of like the way the rest of the schedule shapes up and shapes out for you going down the road. Is that still your ideology with 2 races to go?
Yeah, I believe actually the next race was switched to Bathurst to follow with the VRS schedule. But I do like the last 2 tracks, especially Suzuka, the final. It's definitely a track that I've kind of liked, kind of flowed pretty well with my cars and stuff like that. Yeah, so I am looking, it's hopefully looking good to end off the season. I mean, it's still possible to win the championship. Bathurst, anything can happen. We all know it's just concrete walls everywhere. So you make one small mistake for me or Beats, and you can be into a wall and your race is finished.
I have updated my notes on my end as far as Bathurst, and now I'm looking forward to that even more so. So I appreciate the help on that there, Jesse.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, before we let you go, I know you have a lot of people who make this possible for you. The theme of the night has been pets. Not sure if you got a dog or cat who's cheering you on at home, but that seems to be what everybody's talking about here tonight. So who do you have to thank for yet another podium on the season, buddy?
Well, I got my bearded dragon who always hangs out by my simulator. But my mom and dad, PSM, everybody who put on the race and stuff like that, and my new sponsor, Allpro. So yeah, I'd just like to give a big thanks to them.
Hey, man, good job. I know it wasn't the result you were hoping for. You surely had the pace to be a little bit higher up than third, but you've handled it very well, and I'm looking forward to see what you have in store for the last 2 races of the season, buddy.
Thank you.
And again, that is Jesse Webb, who rounded out our podium in 3rd spot after having pace for victory all night long. And after the pit strategy, he had to settle for a 3rd place finish, but still proving that he is certainly one of the best in this series in 2021. So Webb, your 3rd place finisher, looking forward to going to Bathurst, as I have now updated my schedule moving forward before we round things out at the Suzuka International Racing Course, the Grand Prix layout on March 8th, 2020. So it is Brunham, Beats, web your podium here tonight. As we wrap things up at Sebring, let's take a look at how the rest of the field fared. We came down with the checkered flag. There were storylines aplenty. We got to hear from our top 3 finishers there. Look at that margin of victory. 60 minutes around one of the toughest endurance tracks in the circuit. Granted, we ran a sprint race, but that usually ups the level of intensity. And after 60 minutes, the final margin of victory, half a second back from runner to beat, 2.5 seconds across your podium with a pit stop included. That's incredible. John Whitendorf came back from that poor finish at the Nürburgring. That's a great rebound for Whitendorf, being 1 spot shy of a podium effort. So a great job for Whitendorf in car 24. And Christian Gurgis, who rounded out what is by far his best performance of the season, best finish of the season. First top 5 for that of Gurgis, who rounded out your top 5 finishers. Mikkel Rudebusch, didn't see him on screen that much here tonight. And on a track like Sebring, that's typically a good thing. It means he kept it clean, and he certainly did with a 6th place run. And Wade Hayes ended up winning that war that was about 5 cars deep for 7th spot at one point, finishing ahead of Corey Peters, BC Voigt, and David Flanagan. We mentioned back-to-back top 10 finishes, 7th at the Nürburgring last week, 10th here tonight at Sebring.
Finishing off in 11th place, we do have the number 16 of Nick Ludek. Pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. I'm so sorry. Finishing right behind him, 58 seconds behind the leader, the number 17 of Jimmy Allen in 12th place. 13th spot goes to Alex Treber, number 50, right ahead of Mick Blue, who's just, I guess, was in a battle with George Patasek in 15th place. Ryan Coulter finishes just 4 seconds behind George on the number 110, and behind him Alan Roth in 17th place. Spencer Vick, after a roller coaster of a race, including I guess a last lap crash, finishes in P18 on the number 100. The number 144 of Patrick Hearing finishes off in 19th place, and Jason Frisk, the last car actually to be lapped, finishes in 20th place.
Now we get to look at the rest of the field and some of the drivers who were not so fortunate. Remember, John McClintock had 2 spins on 1 lap, but still able to finish just 1 lap down off the leaders and 1 spot out of the top 20. James Hansen, who had top 5 pace before his crash coming off of the Lamaze curve at turn 16 in 20 seconds. Sven Hartman was also swept up in that incident with Hansen, finishes 23rd. Alexander King had the big off, just 12 laps shy of the finish for 24th. Randall Ayers did not see what happened to him, but he also retired 13 laps shy of the finish. Trevor Anderson was involved in that big accident while running in the top 10, and Gavin Cohn rounds out our 27-car field after having to pull off 25 laps shy of the checkered flag. Well, again, a reminder that these broadcasts could not be made possible without a number of partners here at the Pit Stop TV compound. And it's because of all of them that we're able to have some fun, especially on these Monday nights where we pretty much have the entire crew on the payroll trying to make sure that we bring you coverage of not only this race, but also we have some other events that are on the docket for Monday as well. So we want to take this opportunity to thank some of those once again who make this possible. So our broadcast this evening was brought to you by our friends at the Sound Art of Tucson. And Tucson Sound Art, remember, it's your picture, your music. Head on over there and check out the website you see there on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen, TucsonSoundArt.com. Be sure to use the promo code PitStopTV at checkout to save 10% off all of your wall-mounted sound art devices today. We are also brought to you by one of the newest partners that we have here on the platform at Pit Stop TV, and that would be that of Race Pace. And you can pick up the pace with Race Pace. We talk about these drivers and how some of the intricate settings and items and notes of contention they have to keep track of throughout a race like they had here tonight at the Sebring International Raceway. Well, with this community that is a community-driven setup shop and driver development program, they will make sure that you pick up the pace your next time out with Race Pace. And you see their Discord information there on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen as well. And that, again, is the newest partner to Pit Stop TV, our friends at Race Pace. We're also brought to you by Permanent Makeup in Maine, because you deserve the best care that money can buy. For information on products and services that are available, visit the website permanentmakeupinmaine.com to learn more. And finally, we're brought to you by Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider to Pit Stop TV. They have a bunch of cool things on the website there, whiplash-media.com, to see all that Whiplash Media has to offer. We'll give one more shout out to the league partners who make this all possible for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. That includes the prize packages these drivers are chasing, and it starts at the top with Benke Cinematography, with Damian Benke being the man behind Benke Cinematography, and he looks to provide the most realistic photographs you can find in iRacing. Every now and then you'll see Damian in one of these sessions. Also, liveries by Sarah Rabb, another competitor who unfortunately was not here tonight, but when she shows up, she's often pretty quick, and we hope to see Sarah back in competition. But she's got graphic design experience for over 7 years total, awards on a local, state, and national level. She's committed to making sure your next livery or logo is a masterpiece, and she's also offering up a lot of her services to some of the top running finishers of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And again, that is liveries by Sarah Rabb. And finally, Tam Livery, where artist Christian Kanya has been a designer for the past 14 years, and he has an illustrious resume as well. He too has offered up some livery prizes for some of these front-running drivers, and it's because of these league partners that we were able to have the contest that we have in the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. 2 races to go, JP. I'm excited. Can't wait to get to Bathurst. What a night.
Yeah, exactly. Bathurst is going to be extremely interesting. Obviously, every single driver is going to have an absolutely mountain of a practice, quite literally, because they're going to have obviously the whole VRS week and obviously the 12 hours of Bathurst, so they're going to be full of it. I'm not expecting to see a lot of mistakes on the mountain itself, and I'm expecting to see a very, very interesting race. You know, maybe even some shakeups. We could see maybe a major turnaround, a surprise winner, a surprise pole sitter. Who knows? Only time will tell, but I'm very, very excited for next week.
You and me both, brother, and appreciate you being on the call. Again, that was JP Costa who joined me on the mic. Emerson Arden back in the production truck, who did a spectacular job giving us all the replays of all the action. And Corey Rexford doing his job there on the social media platform. That's one facet of the industry that I'm not sure I could ever master. So it's because of guys like Corey and Trey Shuttlesworth who jump in and take care of that to help promote some of this competition we have here on the platform. And what a night. And we're not done. Those are some of the names that you may see. We got many other players that are going to be in the mix for the next few days here on Pit Stop TV. Tomorrow night, Operation E Motorsport at Moss Sport. Wednesday, stock cars in action for some short track racing for the Bluegrass iRacing Series at Bristol. Friday night, how about the LTAC Cup Series at Gateway? We're off next weekend, but it's another doubleheader on Pit Stop TV with the BRP iRacing Series at Lernerville. And next Monday night, this Pacific Challenge GT3 Series with their 9th race of 10 on the season with the newly announced venue, Bathurst, before they head into their season finale at Suzuka in 2 weeks' time on March 8th. I cannot wait to see how this championship picture comes to fruition. With that, we're done here tonight from Sebring. On behalf of everybody at Pit Stop TV, as I mentioned, Rexford, Arden, and JP Costa, I'm Eric Brennan. We'll see you next time with more racing coverage here on Pit Stop TV. Good night, everybody.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.